Hey, Kat. Great to have you on the program here. We really appreciate it. We noticed you got that Jacksonville State jacket on. Very cool, very fun. We'll get to that in a little bit. Let's get started first on when you started playing basketball. How did that go? Where was it? What was going on? What happened? Tell us about it.
I kind of just fell into basketball, if you will. I really didn't start playing until grade 8. I grew up in Revelstoke, very small town. No real club opportunities, anything outside of school. So I just thought, all right, it's school time and it's basketball season and let me dabble in this. So I just kind of played because that's what school season it was. I also played volleyball because that's what school season it was. And then I actually had a friend's dad who encouraged me and 2 of my other friends, so there's 3 of us, who he encouraged us to go play for the regional Team BC, whatever it was way back in the day. And I think because only 13 girls showed up to the tryout, I made the team. And that was kind of my first real exposure to basketball. Just kind of fell into it. And then the following year, grade 9, is when I moved down to Mission and attended Heritage Park, and the rest is history.
And no kidding. Well, let's talk about that history because the one you were there at Heritage was arguably the best basketball dynasty in the history of girls basketball in British Columbia. So tell us a little bit about that. What you do when you got there, the experience, culture, all that stuff. It's got to be a pretty big awakening when you get there.
I mean, it was a huge culture shock is what it was for me. I come from a little town where if you want to play, you play, and if you want to go to practice, you go to practice. And then to move to Heritage Park with Bruce Langford and that whole world is completely different. I went there in grade 9. I played basketball because it was basketball season. I was actually invited in grade 9 to practice with the senior team. But because, I'm young and I don't really have any exposure to the sport, and I said, hey, you know what, like, I think I'm going to go home today and have dinner, but like maybe next week I'll practice. And Bruce said, hey, don't worry about it. We're good. It was just an offer. You don't have to be there. And I thought, yeah, okay. And then I went home and that felt normal to me at the time. Fast forward a couple weeks, a month, 2 months later, I realized that it really is a lifestyle that you get to be part of that world and part of Bruce as a coach and part of that team dynamic. So, I mean, that was a humongous change for me. I didn't really buy into that lifestyle for the first weeks of being there. I just thought, well, it's a school sport and yeah, I'll play. And I very quickly realized how important the team is, the connection is, the commitment is. And I mean, I bought in as quickly as I could at the maturity level I was at in grade 9. So,
Yeah, no kidding. So it took a little time, needless to say. So then
it did.
The following year, I'm assuming you played on the senior team?
I did. So I played junior in grade 9, and then by grade 10, I was invited by Bruce to play up, and then grade 10, 11, 12, I played senior.
Right. So tell us about that experience. We're talking, national team players on the team. We're talking junior national team. We're talking everything. All the best, all at the same place, all in Mission.
Yeah.
Interesting scenario. Tell us about that.
Like, what a lucky situation for me. And the first thing I'll mention to you actually is that I enjoy volleyball. I was a volleyball player. Revelstoke was a volleyball school, and I thought for sure I was going to be a volleyball player. I ended up at a basketball school and thought, yeah, okay, I can be a basketball player. So like that was big for me, is that I actually bought into the volleyball world just because my brother played volleyball and he was my older brother and I wanted to be like him. Switching over to this basketball world, which I obviously also fell in love with. But I mean, grade 10, I was way more of a role player than anything else because I was really still kind of new in the sport. But I was lucky enough to have leaders on my team who showed me not only a love for the game and for the sport, but also how to embrace my role. I didn't have a gigantic role in grade 10. I had just come off the junior team. I was still really learning how to practice and how to play the sport even. So with the phenomenal leadership that I had Dani Langford as my point guard. Couldn't have been luckier than that. I had Kim Smith and Julie Wilson, who had both played senior in grade 9, so I got to come in and learn from them in grade 10. I had Lisa Sigurdson, who was a year younger than me. She played with us, and I really connected to her just because her and I kind of developed together under the leadership that we had. By grade 11, I don't know, I'm an athlete, so I just kind of picked up on a lot of things that worked out really well for me. By grade 11, I was actually invited to go play junior national in Ontario. So I went with Dani Langford, Devin Campbell, and Julia Wilson. When I got to the junior national camp, I was actually diagnosed with Achilles tendonitis. Yeah, that, by the way, talk about devastating. Achilles tendonitis is by far the most painful injury I've ever had as an athlete, and totally stopped me in my tracks. They sent me home. I was lucky enough to still play provincial team that year. I had to rest for a couple weeks. Heartbreaking for me. I had a terrible attitude that whole summer. I had lots of fantastic humans in the world, including my coaches, including my mom, call me out on my attitude and remind me that the only thing that's stopping me from success that particular summer was my own attitude and not my actual injury. And beyond that, I had fantastic leadership in the provincial program. I still had Kim Smith with me, Julia Wilson still played with me, Dani Langford still played with me. So I still had my core group from school, transferred to provincial team. I went through a ton of heartbreak and still had the leadership to show me how to succeed. And then, so that was grade 11, and then grade 12, I was one of the leaders on the team based solely on being there for as many years as I was. And I was lucky enough to show some younger kids how to buy into the program, how to buy into practice, how to buy into basketball.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's a big deal. Tell us, did you end up winning provincials those years? Give us a little on the court stuff.
Let's see. So when I was 16 and 17 years old, I played on the U19 provincial team. So when I was 16, we were out in Ontario. We came 4th. That hurt. We lost by less than 3 points, and I just remember that because they hit a 3 in our face. We ended up losing in the semifinals, and then we ended up losing the 3rd place game as well. And then we went back the following year when I was 17. I was still playing for the U19 team, and we ended up winning gold.
Very cool.
For school team, I mean, we won grade 10, 11, 12. That was our three-peat. People know that.
People don't know that. That's why we're interviewing you.
Oh, okay.
There you go. Boom, 3 feet. Yeah, we'll just throw it in there.
Yeah.
So then you ended up going to Jacksonville State, obviously. Tell us how that happened. It's literally the opposite corner of the continent. So how did you get up there? What's the deal? What was it like? Go for it.
Yeah. So the recruitment process was a ton of fun. Every day you would come home and there would be new letters from new schools sitting on your kitchen table, and then you would you'd go, you'd check it out, you would Google them, you would go on the internet, whatever, figure out where the schools were. I actually had a number of schools recruit me. I had all over the country. So on the East Coast, in the South, on the West Coast, Pacific Northwest, Central America, Central United States. I had lots of options. I went on a few visits. I went to Gonzaga. I went down to Jacksonville State to visit. University of Denver. I ended up so first of all, what I'm going to tell you is that I come home, there's a letter on the table, it says Gamecocks. I said, yeah, like I'm ever going to go be a Gamecock. Like, what a stupid name. Here I am.
There you go.
So I went on a few different visits. I spent a lot of time with the coaching staff when I went on visits. I tried to find a comfort level for myself. So knowing that I was going to be somewhere by myself, I don't know anyone there, it's a whole new place, it's a whole new country. I really felt like I needed to find a coaching staff that reminded me of what I had in high school. I'm a very specific type of player. I did very well when my coaches put pressure on me and really expected good things from me. And I never really did all that well when my coach kind of, says, hey, good try, but maybe next time you could do this. I wasn't that type of player. I knew I needed that forceful coaching, and I know I needed that expectation and that pressure from my coaches. And after meeting a handful of coaches and talking to a ton of people on the phone, because that's part of the recruiting process, I just found that the coaches at Jacksonville State were the ones who interacted with the most comfort, and I felt most at home with those coaches, and they actually reminded me the most of my high school coaching staff, which I really liked. So just after a number of visits, after a number of exposures to different campuses, different lifestyles, different coaching staffs, I really enjoyed the campus at Jacksonville State. I really enjoyed the coaching staff at Jacksonville State. And it's actually, my interest is criminal justice, and specifically forensic science. Jacksonville State has one of the top criminal justice programs in the country. So that was a huge factor for me as well. And it's hot and I like the weather.
Yeah, no, it's a great spot. I've actually, ironically, I've been there one time back in the day. Not too many people can say that, I don't think, from British Columbia.
Nope.
So you go there, you have a 4-year career there. Tell us some of the challenges, some of the highs, some of the lows. Give us a little breakdown of what that was like.
Okay. The first thing I'm going to tell you is that my first 2 months of my freshman year were tragic. I cried every single day. I was homesick. I missed my friends. I didn't know where my classes were on campus. I wasn't getting along with my team at all. I hated going to the gym. Everyone is way stronger than me. I just thought, oh my God, what have I done? Like, I have to come home. And I used to call my mom all the time, and she said, hey, I get it. You're sad, you're lonely, you're scared, but you're not allowed to come home. You have to finish your year. First of all, you've committed to 4 years, but you have to give it at least 1 year. If after 1 year you have the same feelings, then we can talk about maybe coming home. But until that time, it's not an option, so stop saying it. So for the first number of weeks, I hated it, all of it. Weightlifting was really hard, and running faster and playing harder and rebounding stronger and all of those things, and it was just an uphill battle. By mid-October, we were allowed to start practicing as a team rather than just individuals and pickup games, optional pickup games. Once we got into practice and once we had some direction from our coaches, I became significantly more comfortable. I also determined that I don't have to spend 24 hours a day with my team. They don't have to be my best friends. So I had the luxury of living in dorms, finding a peer group that I really enjoyed. I spent my time at the gym. I found my comfort with my teammates. I found my comfort with my coaches. And then also found my distance from them. I was lucky enough my freshman year to be in the starting lineup almost immediately. And I got to stay there my whole career. How spectacular for me. I really bought into the program. I bought into the running. I bought into the weightlifting. I bought into the pickup games. I bought into our direction that we took as a team in terms of defense, in terms of offense, in terms of recruiting, in terms of scouting, all of those things. I absolutely bought into the program. And aside from the first 2 months of my freshman year, I tell people it was the best 4 years of my life.
That's awesome. The how'd you guys do when you were there? Did the team get better or worse? What was that like?
We did continuously get better. My junior year, we had one of the best players, I think, in the country. She was recruited to the WNBA. She actually holds the NCAA record for free throws made in a game. She was 22 for 22.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we were playing down in Florida, and she went 22 for 22. It was the best rebounding situation of my life. I never had to worry about it. But so she was a year older than me. So that was my junior year. My senior year, we missed her leadership and her strength on the court, but I still think we had a very solid group. What I will tell you is that without fail, we lost in our conference finals every year by 1 or 2 or 3 points or whatever it was, and we actually never got to go to the big dance, but it is what it is.
Yeah, so briefly talk about a shock in from winning every game to not winning every game, because there's a big difference when you go to university. Usually when you're in high school, if you're a good player, you're good enough to just win games by yourself. Whereas when you go to university, very rarely can that one player just completely take over and make sure you win 25, 30 games. And so what was that like, going from every time the game ends, you're a winner, and then you're not so much?
Yeah, like honestly, walking into a game and having no clue whether you'll win, lose, or draw. It was a new experience for me, because I mean, I think my high school record is 81-3 or something like that. I mean, when you only lose 3 games over 3 years, it, like you said, you just kind of walk in saying, yeah, okay, well, let's win and go home. I think it built character for me. I think that I knew how to lose because I played other sports, and my other sports, we were not a dynasty in any way, shape, or form. It was also maybe we'll win, maybe we'll lose. So I think I knew how to lose, but I always used that as my continued motivation to get better, because I thought, this one defensive possession or this one offensive possession or whatever it was in the game that I thought that could have been a turning point, that just continued to keep me motivated to succeed and get better and lead the team to more wins, the best I could over my 4 years there.
Yeah, for sure. So you now have a job in Mission. You do very well. What are some of the characteristics that you have taken from sport and translated them into your work balance?
I would say one of my big things is realizing that people don't think the way you do, and that's okay. And nobody has to think the way I think, and they don't have to have the same motivations as me. It's okay for people to have a different journey than you. You just need to have a general consensus that we're moving toward the same direction. And if they want to do it a little differently, and if they want to put more time in over here and less time in over here, that's okay, as long as we continue to move in the same direction, which was a big thing for me in university, because I was very committed to getting all my workouts done and meeting all my goals and following through with expectations of our coaches. And not all my teammates did that. But as long as, we were committed to the same defensive strategy, and as long as we scouted the teams in the same way, and as long as we understood the other team's plays, I actually don't care how you get there, but let's all get there. So whatever your journey consists of, that's fine, as long as we're working in the same direction.
So how's that translated into your job now? So you have a job. What are some of the skills that you took from playing and that they now help you in your work?
Well, I'm a probation officer. So that's kind of a twofold question. So I need to work well with my coworkers, and I also need to work well with my clients. So my coworkers, we all have our own style. We all have things that are more important to us and less important to us. But at the end of the day, if we're all moving in the same direction, it's okay that I spend more time over here and you spend more time over there, as long as we're all doing our best to commit to public safety or commit to each other's files or whatever specific area that we're working on. I understand that people think differently than me, and people have different style and different motivations, and that's all okay. So I'm able to work well with my coworkers, even though we're very different humans. And I took that. And then on the client side of things, I accept that sometimes they don't want to be better. And I accept that sometimes they think the choices they make and the decisions that they're having for themselves, they're interested in that. So rather than feeling like I have to change people, my experience in basketball has kind of just allowed me to be in the same space as them and have open conversations with them about maybe moving in a specific direction, but not maybe forcing them or making them move in a direction in my style.
Totally. And that's very important, understanding the flexibility of those around you. Last question. We go back to high school. Obviously, it's one of my questions you've heard me ask multiple times. What's that advice you're giving a young Kat? What are you telling her? What are some of the things you think she needed to hear that she didn't necessarily hear?
It's going to be very similar to what all the other phenomenal humans that we've had the opportunity to talk to say. And I say it all the time to the girls. I've been saying it for years. The next level is the next level. Everything about it is harder. You need to be stronger. You need to be quicker. You need to be mentally tough. You need to hit the weight room. You need to take care of your body. Listen to the aches and pains and manage them now, because they only get worse. You need to be mentally tough enough to know that your teammates aren't the most thoughtful humans at all times, and they're competing for positions that you want. And so the big one I always say to the girls: get in the weight room, get strong. You need to do it. I was told the exact same thing in high school when I was given the opportunity for the junior national team. They said, you better get strong. And I said, yeah, I'll do that. Okay. Same thing. You better get quick. You better get mentally tough. Yeah, I'll work on that. Okay. Like, honestly, guys, do those things. You have the women and the people who have been where you are, who have gone through the lessons, who have been told the exact same things you're being told. And when we all look back, we all say, man, I wish I was a little stronger, or man, I wish I was a little quicker, or man, I wish I'd committed a little more. The big one is the weight room, and your physical health. Manage your body well now so that you last longer.
Yeah, we've heard that from everybody. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. We appreciate it, and we'll see you soon.
Sounds great.